Hi class, this is Mr. Morris. We're going to do some notes on solubility rules. You will be given a copy of the solubility rules on a quiz or test. You only need to know how to use them. So let's explain that, do some example problems, and you'll have time to do practice. Soluble. So soluble means that it will dissolve in water. Another way of saying that is AQ, which means aqueous, dissolved in water. So this first table at the top, let's just talk about it first. It lists off several ions. Some are positive, like group 1A and NH4, and the rest of them are negative ions. So if you're looking at an ionic compound like Al2SO43, you look to see which ions are involved in the compound. If one of these ions is involved in the compound, it tends to be soluble. There are exceptions for a couple of them. If the exception is there, that means it's not soluble. Instead, we would say it's insoluble. In the state of matter, instead of aqueous, the state of matter for insoluble would be solid because it didn't dissolve. It's like a powder. It doesn't dissolve. Let's do an example of that. Al2SO43. So it tells us to determine whether they are soluble or insoluble and identify the rules that apply for each. So I'm also going to put the state of matter right here, either aqueous or solid. We're going to put the state of matter right there. Okay, Al, the first thing I want to do is check to see if it applies to rule 1. Is Al an alkali metal? It is a metal, but it's not an alkali metal. Alkali metals are in group 1. Al is in group 13. So it's not that. It's not NH4. So now we just look for our negative ion, SO4. All right, SO4 tends to be soluble. So that means this might be soluble, but I always want to check my exceptions. It's soluble unless it's combined with Pb, Hg, Sr, or Ba. Well, aluminum's not on that list. So that means because of rule number 6, this is soluble, which means I would write AQ as my state of matter. Okay, the next one, BaSO4. Well, once again, it's not an alkali metal. All right, sulfate, I see SO4. So we are going to use rule number 6, which usually says that they're soluble, but there are exceptions. Is Ba on that list? It is. Ba is one of the exceptions. If it's got an exception to this rule, which says it's soluble, it must be the opposite. It must be insoluble. So I'm going to write insoluble, and we're going to put the state of matter as solid. Let's go up just a little more. CuOH. Okay, now we're going to go down to the next table, because I don't see Cu, it's not an alkali metal. I don't see Cu or OH up here. I have to go to the next table. Well, this one said these tend to be soluble. This table said these tend to be insoluble. OH and S2 minus. Okay, well, OH is what I'm looking for. It tends to be insoluble. There are some exceptions. The exceptions would make it soluble for AQ. And don't forget if it's insoluble, the state of matter is S for solid. Okay, so I have CuOH. Is Cu one of my exceptions? Is it group 1A, NH4, Ca, Sr, or Ba? It's not. So it's insoluble. Because of rule number 7. And we're going to call it, the state of matter would be solid. Now I have KOH. Go all the way back up. K is in group 1A. It's element number 19. It's in the first column. So it's an alkali metal. Rule number 1 applies. Now there are no exceptions to rule number 1, but just to double confirm, let's go ahead and check, because OH is a different rule. It's rule number 7. And you'll find there's no contradiction here. OH tends to be insoluble. but if it's combined with a group 1A cation, it's soluble. Up here, alkali metal ions are always soluble. So we're going to say KOH is soluble, which means we need to put AQ. And then finally, Mg3PO42. All right, let's look. Mg is not an alkali metal. I don't see Mg or PO4. I don't see Mg or PO4 down here. So we got to keep going. Oh, rule number 9. Anything not listed is insoluble. So that means this must be insoluble. What's the state of matter for that? Solid. And it's because of rule number 9. And that's it for this video. I hope it's helpful, and you guys can spend the rest of class practicing. Try to get all of it done so you don't have any homework. Have a good day.